Willow Creek was the kind of town where secrets festered in silence, where shadows grew long at dusk and whispers carried on the wind. Nestled in the heart of this seemingly idyllic town was the old library, a grand stone building with ivy-covered walls and stained glass windows that cast eerie colors across the worn wooden floors. Evelyn Harrow had been the town's librarian for nearly 2 decades. She found solace among the rows of books, their musty smell and the quiet rustling of pages a comforting backdrop to her days. It was a cold, rainy afternoon when she first stumbled upon the book. While organizing the dusty archives in the library's basement, Evelyn noticed a faint draft coming from behind a shelf. Curious, she shifted the heavy books aside and discovered a narrow gap. Within the darkness of the hidden alcove, she saw it, a large, ancient book bound in dark, cracked leather, its cover etched with strange, arcane symbols. Her heart quickened with a mix of excitement and unease. She reached out, fingers brushing the cover, and felt a chill run through her body. The title, barely legible through centuries of wear, read Malum Libris. With a mixture of trepidation and curiosity, Evelyn brought the book upstairs to her desk. As she opened the book, a cold wind seemed to blow through the library, extinguishing the nearby lamps. The pages, yellowed with age, were filled with elaborate illustrations and texts in a language she couldn't decipher. She felt a presence, as if unseen eyes were watching her every move. Evelyn closed the book abruptly, her breath coming in shallow gasps. She convinced herself it was just her imagination, the product of too many hours alone in the dim light of the basement. But deep down, she knew that something was very, very wrong. That night, as she locked up the library, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The air was thick with a tension she couldn't explain, a sense of foreboding that lingered long after she left the building. She dreamed of shadows and whispers, of cold fingers brushing against her skin. She saw figures moving through the library, their eyes glowing with a malevolent light. Evelyn woke up in a cold sweat. The images burned into her mind. The next morning, Evelyn returned to the library, determined to uncover the secrets of the book. She spent hours researching, poring over texts about ancient curses and dark magic. Her search led her to the town's historian, Thomas Adler, a man with a reputation for being both eccentric and knowledgeable about the occult. Malum Libris, Thomas said, his eyes widening in recognition. That book is said to be cursed, a conduit for vengeful spirits. It's believed that anyone who opens it will unleash their wrath upon the living. Evelyn's heart sank. She had unwittingly unleashed a terror upon Willow Creek. She knew she had to find a way to stop it, but the more she delved into the book's history, the more she realized the true horror of what she was up against. The spirits were not just vengeful, they were insatiable, driven by a rage that had festered for centuries. Each time the book was opened, their power grew, spreading fear and chaos in their wake. And so, the haunting began. Unexplained phenomena plagued the town. Objects moved on their own, eerie whispers filled the night air, and shadows flickered just out of sight. Townspeople reported terrifying visions and mysterious accidents. The once peaceful Willow Creek was now gripped by a palpable fear. Evelyn knew she had to act fast. She and Thomas delved deeper into the book's origins, discovering clues that led them to the witch's journal, a key to containing the spirits. But as they uncovered more about the curse, the spirits grew bolder, their attacks more violent. The battle for Willow Creek had begun, and Evelyn and Thomas found themselves at the center of a nightmare that threatened to consume them all. The shadows lengthened as Evelyn sat alone in the library, the ancient book open before her. The symbols on its pages seemed to writhe and pulse with a life of their own. She knew she shouldn't open it again, but the lure of its secrets was too strong to resist. As she turned the pages, a cold wind swept through the library, extinguishing the lamps and plunging the room into darkness. The temperature dropped, her breath visible in the chilly air. She felt a presence, an overwhelming sense of being watched. Whispers filled her ears, incoherent yet filled with malice. Suddenly, a shadow darted past her peripheral vision. She spun around, her heart pounding, but saw nothing. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices overlapping in a sinister symphony. Desperate to silence them, Evelyn slammed the book shut. The wind ceased, and the room fell into an oppressive silence. Evelyn's hands trembled as she stood, her eyes darting around the dimly lit room. She felt a cold sweat on her skin, and the lingering sense of dread refused to dissipate. The next morning, the first signs of the haunting became evident. Mrs. Carter, the elderly woman who lived next door to the library, reported seeing strange figures in her garden, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. The local butcher found all his knives arranged in a perfect circle on the floor, despite locking them away the previous night. Evelyn's sleep was plagued by nightmares of dark figures with hollow eyes and twisted faces. She saw the library consumed by shadows, heard the chilling whispers that echoed through her dreams. Each morning she woke up with a scream, the terror from her dreams bleeding into reality. Desperate for answers, Evelyn pored over old records and manuscripts, seeking any mention of the cursed book. She discovered that it had been brought to Willow Creek by a group of occultists in the late 19th century. They had vanished under mysterious circumstances, leaving only the book behind. Evelyn's research led her to Thomas Adler, the town's historian and an expert in local lore. She found him in his cluttered office, surrounded by stacks of ancient tomes and faded documents. "Malum libris," Thomas said, shaking his head. "I never thought I'd see it with my own eyes. That book is a conduit for malevolent spirits. It's said that each time it's opened, the spirits gain strength, their influence spreading further." Evelyn's heart sank. "I've already opened it. Twice." Thomas's expression grew grave. "Then we must act quickly. The spirits will not rest until they have wreaked havoc upon the town." As they delved deeper into the book's history, they discovered the story of its creator, a witch named Alara, who had been wronged by the townspeople. Her vengeance was bound into the pages of the book, a curse that would outlive her mortal life. The haunting grew worse. Children whispered about seeing shadowy figures at their windows at night. People reported cold spots and strange noises in their homes. The once peaceful town was now gripped by fear and paranoia. Evelyn and Thomas knew they had to find a way to stop the spirits. The research pointed to an old ritual described in Alara's journal, a way to contain the spirits and break the curse. But the more they uncovered, the more dangerous the spirits became, retaliating against their efforts. One evening, as Evelyn was closing up the library, she felt a sudden chill. The lamps flickered, and she heard the familiar whispers. Her breath quickened as a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. She backed away, but the figure advanced, its form becoming more defined and menacing. Just as it reached out towards her, a beam of light cut through the darkness. Thomas had arrived, wielding a lantern and chanting words from the witch's journal. The figure recoiled, its form dissipating into a cloud of black mist. The whispers faded, and the oppressive cold lifted. Evelyn collapsed into a chair, her heart racing. "We need to be more careful," Thomas said, his voice steady but his eyes reflecting the same fear she felt. "The spirits are growing stronger. We must hurry before it's too late." Evelyn nodded, determination hardening her resolve. They had to find a way to stop the curse, to save Willow Creek from the vengeful spirits that now haunted it. And they had to do it before the town was consumed by the darkness unleashed from the pages of Malum Libris. Evelyn and Thomas spent the next few days buried in research, their determination to unravel the curse intensifying with each passing hour. The library became their sanctuary and battleground, filled with ancient texts and occult artifacts they hoped would hold the key to stopping the spirits. Evelyn discovered an old manuscript that chronicled the life of Alara, the witch responsible for the curse. According to the manuscript, Alara was a healer and seer, revered for her knowledge of herbal medicine and mystical arts. However, she was wronged by the very people she had once helped. Accused of witchcraft and dark magic, Alara was hunted and eventually captured by a zealous mob. Before her execution, Alara used her final moments to curse the town of Willow Creek. She bound her wrath and pain into the pages of Malum Libris, ensuring her vengeance would be eternal. Anyone who dared to open the book would release her fury, unleashing spirits that would torment the living. As Evelyn read these words, she felt a shiver run down her spine. She could almost hear Alara's final, anguished cries, a chilling echo from the past that reverberated through the pages. She knew they had to find a way to break the curse, but the task seemed insurmountable. Thomas, meanwhile, delved into the witch's journal they had discovered in the library's hidden passages. The journal was filled with spells, rituals, and notes on the occult. It detailed the exact ritual Alara had used to bind the spirits, but it also hinted at a way to reverse the curse. The process was perilous, requiring a series of rituals and sacrifices that would test their resolve and courage. "We need to gather the necessary components for the ritual," Thomas said, his voice firm despite the fear in his eyes. "It won't be easy, and the spirits will try to stop us." Evelyn nodded, her resolve hardening. "We have no choice. We must do whatever it takes to save the town." As they prepared for the rituals, the haunting escalated. The spirits grew bolder, their attacks more violent and frequent. The townspeople were gripped by terror, their lives disrupted by the malevolent entities. Reports of possessions, poltergeist activity, and eerie apparitions spread like wildfire, plunging Willow Creek into chaos. One night, as Evelyn and Thomas pored over their plans in the library, they heard a chilling scream from outside. Rushing to the window, they saw a group of townspeople gathered around Mrs. Carter's house. The elderly woman stood in her garden, her eyes wide with fear, as she pointed to a shadowy figure hovering near the tree line. "We have to act now," Evelyn said, her voice trembling but determined. "The spirits are becoming more aggressive. If we don't stop them soon, they'll tear this town apart." Thomas agreed, and they set out to gather the components for the ritual. They needed rare herbs, candles infused with protective magic, and personal items from those most affected by the spirits. Each item had to be purified and blessed, a process that required precision and unwavering focus. As they worked, the spirits fought back. Objects flew across the room, shadows twisted into monstrous forms, and whispers filled the air with threats and curses. But Evelyn and Thomas pressed on, their determination fueled by the knowledge that they were Willow Creek's only hope. They discovered that the final component required for the ritual was a personal sacrifice, a token of immense sentimental value from someone who had opened the book. Evelyn realized with a sinking heart that it had to be something of hers. From her desk drawer, she retrieved an old locket, a cherished heirloom passed down through generations of her family. It contained a picture of her parents, the only remaining link to her past. Tears filled her eyes as she held it, knowing what she had to do. "It's the only way," she whispered, clutching the locket tightly. I have to do this. Thomas placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You're brave, Evelyn. We'll get through this. Together. With all the components gathered, they prepared for the final ritual. The spirits grew restless, their presence palpable and menacing. Evelyn and Thomas knew the stakes were higher than ever, but they were resolute. They would face the darkness head-on, armed with the knowledge and strength they had gained. As the clock struck midnight, they began the ritual, chanting the ancient incantations from Alara's journal. The air grew thick with tension, the room filled with a suffocating darkness. Evelyn placed the locket in the center of the ritual circle, her heart aching with the sacrifice. The shadows around them writhed and howled, the spirit's fury reaching a fever pitch. But as the final words of the incantation left their lips, a blinding light erupted from the circle, banishing the darkness and silencing the whispers. The spirits let out a final, anguished wail before dissipating into the ether. The oppressive weight lifted, and the room filled with an eerie silence. Evelyn and Thomas exchanged a glance, their faces reflecting a mix of exhaustion and relief. They had done it. The curse was broken. But as they looked at the now closed book, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that this was not the end. The remnants of Alara's vengeance still lingered, a dark echo that would forever haunt the pages of Malum Libris. Despite their victory, Evelyn and Thomas soon realized that their ordeal was far from over. Though the spirits had been momentarily quelled, the malevolent presence of Alara's curse still lurked in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to resurface. As the days passed, Willow Creek struggled to return to normalcy. However, the signs of the haunting persisted, subtle but unnerving. People continued to report cold spots in their homes, strange noises at night, and fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures out of the corners of their eyes. One evening, as Evelyn locked up the library, she felt an inexplicable sense of dread. The lamps flickered, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance and mock her. She quickened her pace, eager to escape the oppressive atmosphere. When she stepped outside, the streets were unusually quiet. The familiar comfort of the town felt distorted, as if an unseen force was watching and waiting. Her footsteps echoed in the silence, and she could feel the weight of unseen eyes following her every move. The following morning, the true extent of the haunting became evident. Mr. Thompson, the local butcher, was found unconscious in his shop, surrounded by shattered glass and overturned furniture. He claimed to have been attacked by an invisible force that threw him across the room. Children whispered about seeing ghostly figures in their homes, and pets refused to enter certain rooms, growling and barking at empty spaces. The townspeople were gripped by a growing sense of fear and paranoia, their trust in the safety of their homes shattered. Evelyn and Thomas knew they had to take action. They returned to the library, hoping to find additional clues in Alara's journal. As they pored over the ancient texts, they discovered a series of spells designed to ward off malevolent spirits and protect the living. "We need to perform these rituals around town," Thomas said, his voice resolute. "It's the only way to contain the spirits and prevent them from causing more harm." Evelyn nodded, her determination unwavering. "We need to do this quickly. The spirits are getting stronger, and the town is in danger." They gathered the necessary ingredients for the protective rituals: candles, herbs, and symbols of protection. With the help of a few brave townspeople, they set out to perform the rituals at key locations around Willow Creek. As they worked, the spirits fought back with increasing ferocity. The air grew colder, and whispers filled the night, taunting and threatening them. Objects moved on their own, and shadows twisted into monstrous shapes, trying to disrupt the rituals. At one point, Evelyn felt a sudden sharp pain in her chest, as if icy fingers were squeezing her heart. She gasped, clutching her chest, and fell to her knees. Thomas rushed to her side, chanting protective spells to ward off the attacking spirit. The pain subsided, but the encounter left Evelyn shaken. She knew they were dealing with forces far beyond their understanding, malevolent entities that would stop at nothing to spread fear and chaos. Despite the relentless attacks, they pressed on, determined to protect their town. The rituals were arduous and exhausting, draining their energy and resolve. But with each completed ritual, the oppressive presence seemed to weaken, the spirit's power diminishing little by little. One night, as they performed a ritual at the town square, a particularly aggressive spirit manifested, its form a swirling mass of shadows and rage. It lunged at Evelyn, its eyes burning with a malevolent light. Thomas stepped in front of her, raising his hands and chanting a powerful incantation. The spirit shrieked, its form flickering and dissipating into the night. Evelyn felt a surge of gratitude and admiration for Thomas's bravery, knowing that their bond and shared determination were their greatest strengths. With the final ritual completed, the town seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The spirit's attacks lessened, their presence growing weaker with each passing day. The townspeople began to reclaim their lives, but the scars of the haunting would never fully heal. Evelyn and Thomas knew that they had achieved a significant victory, but the shadow of Alara's curse still loomed over them. They had managed to contain the spirits for now, but the dark power within Malum Libris remained, a constant reminder of the fragility of their peace. As they stood together in the library, the ancient book closed and locked away, Evelyn felt a sense of foreboding. She knew that they could never let their guard down, for the curse of Malum Libris was eternal, and the vengeful spirits would always be waiting for another chance to be unleashed. As the days turned into weeks, the initial sense of relief in Willow Creek began to wane. The spirit's presence, though subdued, had not entirely disappeared. Strange incidents continued to plague the town, a cold touch here, a whisper there, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. Evelyn and Thomas had fortified the library with every protective charm and ward they could find, but they knew it was only a temporary measure. The spirits were growing restless, their malevolence simmering just beneath the surface, waiting for an opportunity to strike. One evening, a fierce storm descended upon Willow Creek, bringing with it an oppressive darkness that seemed to seep into every corner of the town. The wind howled like a chorus of lost souls, and the rain lashed against windows with a relentless fury. Evelyn sat in the library, the flickering candlelight casting long shadows on the walls. She was poring over Alara's journal, searching for any overlooked clues that might help them strengthen their defenses. Thomas was across the room, organizing a collection of protective talismans and preparing for the worst. A sudden crash echoed through the library as a window shattered, the wind tearing through the room and extinguishing the candles. Evelyn gasped, clutching the journal to her chest. She could feel the cold presence of the spirits closing in, their anger palpable in the air. "Thomas!" she called, her voice trembling. "They're here!" Thomas rushed to her side, his face set in grim determination. "We need to reinforce the wards. Quickly!" They worked together, chanting incantations and lighting candles infused with protective magic. The spirits fought back with a vengeance, their whispers rising to a deafening crescendo. Books flew off the shelves, and shadows twisted into monstrous forms, their eyes glowing with an unholy light. As they fought to hold the spirits at bay, a deafening boom shook the library. The front doors burst open, and a howling wind swept through, bringing with it a torrent of rain and darkness. Evelyn and Thomas were thrown back, the protective circle they had formed shattering under the onslaught. Through the storm, a figure emerged, a tall, imposing silhouette with eyes that burned like embers. It was a manifestation of Alara's rage, a powerful spirit bent on destroying everything in its path. "Evelyn Harrow," the figure intoned, its voice a chilling blend of male and female tones. "You have tampered with forces beyond your comprehension. Now, you will pay the price." Evelyn stood her ground, her heart pounding in her chest. "I will not let you harm this town. Your curse ends here." The spirit laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "You are but a mortal. You cannot stop the inevitable." Thomas stepped forward, holding a talisman high. "We won't let you win. This ends tonight." They launched into the final ritual, their voices rising above the storm. The spirit howled in fury, its form shifting and writhing as it fought to break free of their binding. The air crackled with energy, the force of their incantations clashing with the spirit's malevolent power. As the ritual reached its climax, the spirit let out a piercing scream, its form disintegrating into a swirl of shadows and mist. The wind died down, and an eerie silence settled over the library. Evelyn and Thomas stood together, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. "Is it over?" Evelyn whispered, her voice filled with exhaustion and hope. Thomas nodded, his eyes reflecting the same weariness. "For now. But we must remain vigilant. The curse may be weakened, but it is not entirely broken." In the days that followed, the town of Willow Creek began to recover. The haunting incidents decreased, and a tentative peace returned. Evelyn and Thomas continued to study Alara's journal, seeking a permanent solution to the curse. They knew that their battle was far from over. The spirit's power had been diminished, but not eradicated. The dark legacy of Malum Libris still loomed, a constant reminder of the fragile peace they had fought so hard to achieve. As the storm clouds receded and the sun broke through, Willow Creek took its first steps toward healing. But the shadows of the past lingered, and Evelyn and Thomas remained ever watchful, ready to face the darkness should it ever rise again. Evelyn and Thomas delved deeper into the hidden passages and secret rooms of the library. They discovered ancient tomes, occult artifacts, and cryptic writings that hinted at even darker secrets. Each discovery brought them closer to understanding the full extent of Alara's curse. In one hidden chamber, they found a set of scrolls wrapped in decayed leather. The writings detailed a series of rituals designed to bind the spirits permanently. As they deciphered the cryptic texts, they realized that these rituals required powerful sacrifices and immense courage. "We have to do this," Evelyn said, her voice unwavering. "We can't let the spirits regain their strength." Thomas agreed. "But we must be prepared. The rituals will be dangerous, and the spirits will fight us every step of the way." With a renewed sense of purpose, they set out to gather the necessary components for the final binding rituals. The fate of Willow Creek rested in their hands, and they were determined to end the haunting once and for all. The journey ahead was fraught with peril, but Evelyn and Thomas knew they could not falter. The secrets of the library held the key to their victory, and they were ready to face whatever horrors awaited them in the depths of Malum Libris. As Evelyn and Thomas explored the hidden depths of the library, they uncovered a labyrinth of secrets that had been buried for centuries. Behind a rotting bookshelf, they found a narrow staircase leading down into a subterranean chamber. The air grew colder as they descended, the musty scent of decay filling their lungs. The chamber was unlike anything they had seen before. Ancient tomes lined the walls, their covers adorned with intricate symbols and dark, foreboding illustrations. In the center of the room stood a stone altar, stained with what looked like dried blood. The atmosphere was thick with an oppressive energy, the air humming with latent power. She could feel the cold presence of the spirits closing in, their anger palpable in the air. "Thomas!" she called, her voice trembling. "They're here!" Thomas rushed to her side, his face set in grim determination. "We need to reinforce the wards. Quickly!" They worked together, chanting incantations and lighting candles infused with protective magic. The spirits fought back with a vengeance, their whispers rising to a deafening crescendo. Books flew off the shelves, and shadows twisted into monstrous forms, their eyes glowing with an unholy light. As they fought to hold the spirits at bay, a deafening boom shook the library. The front doors burst open, and a howling wind swept through, bringing with it a torrent of rain and darkness. Evelyn and Thomas were thrown back, the protective circle they had formed shattering under the onslaught. Through the storm, a figure emerged, a tall, imposing silhouette with eyes that burned like embers. It was a manifestation of Alara's rage, a powerful spirit bent on destroying everything in its path. "Evelyn Harrow," the figure intoned, its voice a chilling blend of male and female tones. "You have tampered with forces beyond your comprehension. Now, you will pay the price." Evelyn stood her ground, her heart pounding in her chest. "I will not let you harm this town. Your curse ends here." The spirit laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "You are but a mortal. You cannot stop the inevitable." Thomas stepped forward, holding a talisman high. "We won't let you win. This ends tonight." They launched into the final ritual, their voices rising above the storm. The spirit howled in fury, its form shifting and writhing as it fought to break free of their binding. The air crackled with energy, the force of their incantations clashing with the spirit's malevolent power. As the ritual reached its climax, the spirit let out a piercing scream, its form disintegrating into a swirl of shadows and mist. The wind died down, and an eerie silence settled over the library. Evelyn and Thomas stood together, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. "Is it over?" Evelyn whispered, her voice filled with exhaustion and hope. Thomas nodded, his eyes reflecting the same weariness. "For now, but we must remain vigilant. The curse may be weakened, but it is not entirely broken." In the days that followed, the town of Willow Creek began to recover. The haunting incidents decreased, and a tentative peace returned. Evelyn and Thomas continued to study Alara's journal, seeking a permanent solution to the curse. They knew that their battle was far from over. The spirit's power had been diminished, but not eradicated. The dark legacy of Malum Libris still loomed, a constant reminder of the fragile peace they had fought so hard to achieve. As the storm clouds receded and the sun broke through, Willow Creek took its first steps toward healing. But the shadows of the past lingered, and Evelyn and Thomas remained ever watchful, ready to face the darkness should it ever rise again. Evelyn and Thomas delved deeper into the hidden passages and secret rooms of the library. They discovered ancient tomes, occult artifacts, and cryptic writings that hinted at even darker secrets. Each discovery brought them closer to understanding the full extent of Alara's curse. In one hidden chamber, they found a set of scrolls wrapped in decayed leather. The writings detailed a series of rituals designed to bind the spirits permanently. As they deciphered the cryptic texts, they realized that these rituals required powerful sacrifices and immense courage. "We have to do this," Evelyn said, her voice unwavering. "We can't let the spirits regain their strength." Thomas agreed. "But we must be prepared. The rituals will be dangerous, and the spirits will fight us every step of the way." With a renewed sense of purpose, they set out to gather the necessary components for the final binding rituals. The fate of Willow Creek rested in their hands, and they were determined to end the haunting once and for all. The journey ahead was fraught with peril, but Evelyn and Thomas knew they could not falter. The secrets of the library held the key to their victory, and they were ready to face whatever horrors awaited them in the depths of Malum Libris. As Evelyn and Thomas explored the hidden depths of the library, they uncovered a labyrinth of secrets that had been buried for centuries. Behind a rotting bookshelf, they found a narrow staircase leading down into a subterranean chamber. The air grew colder as they descended, the musty scent of decay filling their lungs. The chamber was unlike anything they had seen before. Ancient tomes lined the walls, their covers adorned with intricate symbols and dark, foreboding illustrations. In the center of the room stood a stone altar, stained with what looked like dried blood. The atmosphere was thick with an oppressive energy, the air humming with latent power. Evelyn approached the altar, her fingers tracing the carved symbols. "This must be where the occultists perform their rituals," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's steeped in dark magic." Thomas nodded, his eyes scanning the room. "We need to find the scrolls mentioned in Alara's journal. They're the key to binding the spirits permanently." They searched the chamber, carefully examining each tome and artifact. After hours of meticulous exploration, Evelyn found a set of scrolls wrapped in decayed leather, hidden in a niche behind the altar. The scrolls were fragile, the parchment yellowed with age, but the symbols and texts were still legible. Thomas carefully unrolled the first scroll, his eyes widening as he read. "These rituals are powerful, but they come at a great cost. We'll need rare herbs, protective charms, and personal sacrifices." Evelyn's heart sank. "What kind of sacrifices?" Thomas pointed to a passage in the scroll. "Items of immense sentimental value, willingly given. The more meaningful the item, the stronger the ritual." Evelyn thought of the locket she had already sacrificed. She knew it wouldn't be enough. The spirit's power was vast, and they needed more to bind them permanently. She glanced at Thomas, whose expression mirrored her own determination and resolve. "We'll gather what we need," Evelyn said. "The town depends on us." They compiled a list of ingredients and artifacts required for the rituals. With the help of a few trusted townspeople, they set out to gather everything they needed. Each item had to be purified and blessed, a process that required precision and unwavering focus. As they worked, the spirits grew increasingly aggressive. Shadows twisted into monstrous forms, and eerie whispers filled the air. Objects moved on their own, and the temperature plummeted, an icy chill seeping into their bones. Evelyn and Thomas knew that time was running out. One evening, while searching the library's attic for a rare herb, Evelyn stumbled upon an old trunk. Inside, she found a collection of letters and photographs belonging to her ancestors. Among the items was a delicate porcelain doll, its glass eyes staring blankly ahead. Evelyn's grandmother had given it to her when she was a child, and it held a special place in her heart. "This will work," she thought, her heart aching at the thought of parting with such a cherished item. She carefully added it to their collection of sacrifices. Thomas, meanwhile, found a silver pocket watch that had belonged to his father. It was one of the few keepsakes he had, a reminder of the man who had taught him everything he knew about history and the occult. He hesitated for a moment before placing it alongside Evelyn's doll. "We're ready," Thomas said, his voice filled with resolve. "Let's end this." As they prepared for the final rituals, the spirits launched a desperate attack. The air grew thick with malevolence, and the temperature plummeted. Shadows twisted into grotesque forms, and whispers echoed through the library, promising pain and suffering. Evelyn felt a sudden, sharp pain in her chest, as if icy fingers were squeezing her heart. She gasped, clutching her chest, and fell to her knees. Thomas rushed to her side, but before he could reach her, a dark shadow enveloped Evelyn, lifting her off the ground. Her eyes turned black, and a sinister smile twisted her lips. "Thomas," she said, her voice a chilling blend of her own and another darker presence. "You cannot stop us. We are eternal." Thomas raised his talisman, chanting a powerful incantation. The shadow recoiled, its grip on Evelyn weakening. She fell to the ground, gasping for breath as the dark presence was forced out of her. "We need to finish the rituals now," Thomas said urgently. "The spirits are desperate. They know we're close." They completed the preparations, setting up the ritual circles and placing the sacrifices at the center. As they began the incantations, the spirits attacked with renewed ferocity. Books flew off shelves, and the walls shook with an otherworldly force. Evelyn and Thomas stood firm, their voices rising above the chaos. The air crackled with energy, the force of their combined will clashing with the spirit's malevolent power. As the final words of the incantation left their lips, a blinding light erupted from the ritual circles, banishing the shadows and silencing the whispers. The spirits let out a final, anguished wail before dissipating into the ether. The oppressive weight lifted, and the library fell into an eerie silence. Evelyn and Thomas exchanged a glance, their faces reflecting a mix of exhaustion and relief. "We did it," Evelyn whispered, her voice filled with hope. "The curse is broken." Thomas nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. "For now, at least, we must remain vigilant. The darkness within Malum Libris is powerful, but together, we can protect our town." As they stood amidst the remnants of the battle, the first light of dawn broke through the windows, casting a warm glow over the library. The spirits were defeated, but the memory of their terror would linger, a reminder of the darkness that had once gripped Willow Creek. Evelyn and Thomas knew that their fight was far from over, but for now, they had earned a hard-won victory. The secrets of the library had been revealed, and the town of Willow Creek could finally begin to heal. The temporary peace that settled over Willow Creek was a fragile one. Although the spirits had been weakened and their attacks lessened, the town still bore the scars of the haunting. The townspeople were wary, their fear palpable, and they looked to Evelyn and Thomas for reassurance. Evelyn and Thomas knew they had to take a final stand to ensure the spirits would never regain their strength. They delved deeper into Ilara's journal, uncovering the final ritual that would bind the spirits permanently. The ritual required immense courage, powerful protective spells, and the ultimate sacrifice. As they prepared, the spirits became more desperate. The library, once a place of solace and knowledge, turned into a battlefield. Books flew off the shelves, and shadows twisted into grotesque forms, their eyes burning with malevolent light. The air grew thick with whispers, promising pain and suffering. One night, as they were finalizing their preparations, a powerful storm descended upon Willow Creek. Thunder rumbled, and lightning illuminated the dark clouds that loomed over the town. Evelyn and Thomas knew the time had come. They gathered in the library, the heart of the haunting. The storm raged outside, the wind howling like a chorus of lost souls. They lit candles infused with protective magic, their flickering flames casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air hummed with energy, the spirit's presence palpable and menacing. Evelyn and Thomas stood in the center of the library, the sacrificial items arranged in a circle around them. They began chanting the incantations from Alara's journal, their voices rising above the storm. The spirits fought back, their whispers growing louder, their forms shifting and writhing as they tried to break free. As the ritual reached its climax, the spirits launched a final desperate attack. Shadows lunged at Evelyn and Thomas, their eyes glowing with an unholy light. Evelyn felt icy fingers closing around her throat, the cold seeping into her bones. She struggled to breathe, her vision darkening. Thomas, sensing her distress, raised his hands and chanted a powerful protective spell. A blinding light erupted from his palms, banishing the shadows and freeing Evelyn from their grasp. She gasped for breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "We're almost there," Thomas said, his voice filled with determination. "Just a little longer." Evelyn nodded, her resolve hardening. She held up the porcelain doll, its glass eyes reflecting the candlelight. "I sacrifice this token of my past, willingly given, to bind the spirits and end the curse." Thomas followed suit, holding up his silver pocket watch. "I sacrifice this keepsake, a symbol of my father's love and knowledge, to protect our town and banish the darkness." The air crackled with energy as they placed the items in the center of the ritual circle. The spirits let out a final, anguished wail, their forms flickering and disintegrating into a cloud of black mist. The oppressive weight lifted, and the room filled with an eerie silence. The storm outside began to dissipate, the thunder fading into the distance. The candles flickered and then steadied, their flames burning bright and strong. Evelyn and Thomas exchanged a glance, their faces reflecting a mix of exhaustion and relief. "It's over," Evelyn whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We did it." Thomas smiled, his eyes filled with gratitude. "We did it together. The spirits are bound, and the curse is broken." As they stood amidst the remnants of the battle, the first light of dawn broke through the windows, casting a warm glow over the library. The spirits were defeated, and the town of Willow Creek could finally begin to heal. In the aftermath of the final battle, the town of Willow Creek slowly began to recover. The haunting incidents ceased, and the oppressive darkness that had gripped the town lifted. The townspeople, though scarred by their experiences, found solace in the knowledge that the spirits had been defeated. Evelyn and Thomas, however, knew that their victory had come at a great cost. The sacrifices they had made were not just material items, but pieces of their hearts and histories. The porcelain doll and silver pocket watch, cherished tokens of their pasts, were now forever bound in the ritual that had saved their town. One evening, as they sat in the quiet library, Evelyn felt a profound sense of loss. She missed the comforting presence of the doll, a tangible link to her grandmother and her childhood. She glanced at Thomas, who was staring at the empty spot where his father's watch had once rested. "It's hard, isn't it?" Evelyn said softly, her voice tinged with sadness. "Letting go of something so precious." Thomas nodded, his expression reflective. "Yes, it is, but it was necessary. We had to protect our town." Evelyn reached out and took his hand, a gesture of shared understanding and comfort. "We did the right thing, and we'll keep protecting Willow Creek no matter what." Their bond, forged in the crucible of their shared struggle, had grown stronger. They had faced the darkness together and emerged victorious, but the memories of their sacrifices lingered, a testament to their courage and resolve. As the town of Willow Creek began to rebuild and heal, the library remained a symbol of both knowledge and resilience. Evelyn and Thomas continued their work, dedicating themselves to preserving the history and stories that had shaped their community. The townspeople, though wary at first, slowly returned to the library, finding comfort in its familiar walls and the presence of Evelyn and Thomas. The haunting had left its mark, but the town's spirit remained unbroken. Evelyn often found herself drawn to the hidden chamber where they had discovered the scrolls and performed the final ritual. She felt a connection to the ancient knowledge contained within its walls, a reminder of the power and responsibility they held. One evening, as she was closing up the library, Evelyn heard a faint whisper. She paused, her heart quickening, and listened closely. The whisper grew louder, a soft, almost melodic voice. "Thank you," it said, the words barely audible but filled with gratitude. Evelyn smiled, a sense of peace washing over her. She knew that Alara's spirit, once filled with rage and vengeance, had finally found rest. The curse of Malum Libris had been broken, and the vengeful spirits had been laid to rest. But Evelyn and Thomas remained vigilant, knowing that the darkness within the book still existed. They continued to study Alara's journal and other occult texts, seeking to understand and protect against any future threats. Willow Creek thrived, its people finding strength in their shared experiences. The haunting had left them forever changed, but it had also brought them closer together, united in their determination to protect their town. Evelyn and Thomas, bound by their shared sacrifice and unwavering resolve, stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The haunted library, once a place of fear and darkness, had become a beacon of hope and resilience. And as the sun set over Willow Creek, casting a golden glow over the town, Evelyn felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, their bond stronger than ever. The echoes of the past remained, but they no longer held power over the present. For Evelyn and Thomas, the library was not just a place of knowledge, but a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, hope and courage could prevail.